Hey guys, how we doing? Welcome to Walking Boxing. It is Sunday, October 20th, 2024, aka Fight Day. And doesn't it just hit a little bit differently on a Sunday morning when you get up, you do all the things you've got to do in the morning and sit down and have your bacon and eggs or pancakes, whatever the hell it might be, and you're settled in for a big day of fight. So I know it's always good with the nighttime fights, but I just think the Sunday afternoon or morning, in this case, events, as I said, just hit a little bit differently. So today's fights are only three. I think there's only 3 fights on the card, which probably makes sense when you think about it. It is a free fight. I know it has been a little bit of a bone of contention for everyone out there that we're paying $70 here in Australia, where overseas it is absolutely free on Amazon Prime. So I'll let you guys have your own comments about that. But anyway, it is what it is. One thing I will say about that though, with the $70 thing, and I've been a defender of No Limit and other promoters that charge this amount of money for the fights here, and because they've got to put the fights on. It's not cheap, especially at that level. Main events cost a fortune. The undercard costs a fortune. Of course, you've got all the flights and accommodations, sanctioning fees, and you name it, you've got to pay for it. I get all that. So I can sort of see why they do spend $70, even if sometimes we don't think the quality of the cards are as great as some of the other cheaper cards that we get. But in this occasion, the No Limit boys have, well, as far as I know, 0 costs involved, apart from flying themselves over, I'm assuming business class, and sitting ringside, and good on them. Hey, they work hard, good luck to the boys. Good on them that they can do that. But when they're still paying $70, come here, man, still paying or charging $70 for this, and there's no expense in actually putting on the fight itself, yeah, it might just be taking advantage a little bit of the fan base of Tszyu in this one, I've got a feeling. I mean, main event, they've sent Ben Damon over there to, although he has been interviewing fighters, but to also obviously probably commentate the event from over there. I'm not sure if there's anyone with him. Sure, that might cost a little bit, but look, end of the day, look, I probably understand it to some extent that, No Limit invest a lot in Tszyu, so it's probably, they need to cash out every now and then as well, and they're certainly going to do that because the viewership will be, just watching out for plovers there, the little pricks. You can probably hear them in the background there. But yeah, they, as I said, they invest a lot in Tim, so I'm assuming they deserve some times to cash in, and yeah, I think the viewership today will be massive. So anyway, I'll let you guys have your say about that. But I was looking at it, I was sort of thinking about it last night, and by my sums, this is the 16th fight this year, world title fight this year, involving an Australian. And that is just crazy. Now, what I'm probably going to do at some stage before the end of the year, I'll do an end of year review and go through every single world title fight that an Aussie has been in this year, whether it's on this sort of format, the Walking Boxing, or I might do a standalone show on it on our YouTube channel. But now I'm going to try and rattle them off the top of my head. So this will be Tszyu's second. I think Jai Patai's had 2. George Kambosos has had 1. Jason Maloney has had 2. Andrew Maloney has had 1. Okay, that's about 8 there. We've had Liam Wilson with 1. We've had Alex Winwood with 1. We've had, now that's 10. Now the girls, I think Shanika Johnson's had 1. Sky Nicholson might have had 2. Shay Keneally has 1. Now who am I forgetting? I think that's only 14. Help me out there, guys. I'm sure you'll put it in the comments there. Have I missed some? Oh, Liam Paro, of course, has had 1. That's still only 15. But anyway, you get where I'm coming from. And by the end of the year, we should have more. We've had, who else is there? There is Liam Paro's fighting. Who's the other one? Sam Goodman, of course. Geez, you thought I'd be prepared if I'm going to get on here and boast that I know all the world title fights that have taken place this year. I can't even remember them. But that's about it. I'm sure there's another one in there somewhere you'll let me know about. But Michael Zarafa, he was the other one. Who can forget Michael Zarafa's performance in Vegas? So that's number 16, by the way. But as I said, Sam Goodman, Liam Paro to come before the end of the year, which will make it 18. And who knows if one of the Maloney's might get a title fight, Tim might fight again this year, I don't know. But it looks like at this stage 16, and based on what fights look like happening, it'll be at least 18 world title fights this year that Aussies have been involved with. And to think back, geez, you know, coming up when I was starting to watch boxing, you know, back in the day when it was Lester Ellis and Barry Malcolm, I know I go on all about these fighters all the time, but you know, you might have 1, 2, maybe 3 world title fights a year with all those guys. And then there was gaps there where we had none. And to think we're going to have up to 18 fighters at least, or 18 title fights featuring Aussies, just goes to show how far we've come. And I know there's more world title belts on the line these days. I understand that, more divisions and whatever, but you can't underestimate how great Australian boxing is at the moment. And as I said, once the year's over, I will go through all the fights and do a little bit of a review on every world title fight that an Aussie's been in this year. So that's amazing, 16 of them, pretty crazy. So on to today's fight. I think I've previewed it enough, and I've given my prediction and all that sort of thing. I did think that Tszyu, what did I say? I think a 7th or 8th round stoppage. I think he's just going to be far too fast and precise, powerful. You know, I just think he's going to have Murtazalyov covered in all areas. And even though Murtazalyov he looks taller. You look at him at the weigh-in yesterday, and Tszyu just looked a lot more solid, a lot fuller in the body. I think Murtazalyov for the first probably 2 or 3 rounds to be dangerous. And I think the way I see the fight going again, I won't go over my predictions or my preview again, but I think just overall, I think the way I see the fight is Tim surviving a bit of a barrage early from Murtazalyov and then settling in, getting his timing arranged, and then sort of taking Murtazalyov apart as the fight goes on. The other option could be that he goes out there and really tries to get Murtazalyov out of there early. I don't think that'd be a great way for him to fight. I doubt very much that Igor, his trainer, would tell him to do that. I think the smart thing would be to box early, take whatever Murtazalyov has to offer, and then do your thing and just slowly pick him apart and stop him in those sort of later rounds. So, but on the undercard, of course, Tapia and Saavedra. Looking forward to seeing what Tapia has got as well. Now, I know he's been impressive so far, but I would think that Saavedra would be pretty close to the best fighter he's fought. And let's see what he can do on the big stage in a big fight, whether he has the goods as well. So the fight card starts at 10:30. So again, looking forward to it. One thing, just on a sort of separate note, on the whole Murtazalyov and Tszyu fight, I did see that Murtazalyov is actually promoted or managed or whatever it might be by Main Events Promotions. Now, if you're not familiar with Main Events Promotions, don't confuse this with the broadcaster here in Australia, the Main Event channel. Main Events Promotions. Now, you might not have heard of them, but if you're as old as I am and been following boxing as long as I have, you'll know who they are. They're run by, or were run by, one of the most famous boxing families ever in the Duvers. Lou Duver, Dan Duver, Kathy Duver. And unfortunately, Kathy is the lone sort of survivor of the family at the moment. She's the wife of Dan. Dan was the son of Lou. And at the moment, Murtazalyov is their sole, not sure whether he's their sole fighter, but their sole world champion. Now, back in the day, Main Events were as big as Bob Arum and Top Rank, as big as Don King. They were sort of the third sort of power broker back in the day when it came to promoters. And just to probably highlight that a little bit is the fact that after the 1984 Los Angeles Olympics, they signed Evander Holyfield, Pernell Whitaker, Meldrick Taylor, Mark Breland and Tyrell Biggs straight out of the Olympics. Now that is a star-studded lineup to get them going. And look, over the journey, they've had fighters like Vinny Pazienza and Sergey Kovalov and Arturo Gatti and many other fighters. I'm just sort of picking just a few straight off the bat, but Fernando Vargas I think was in there as well. But these guys were heavy hitters, and you'll probably liken them today to, you've obviously got Eddie Hearn, Oscar De La Hoya and Top Rank. That was the three back then. It was King, Arum and Main Events, Lou Duver. And who can forget Lou Duver? Some of the antics of him over the years. You know, I remember after I think it was when Vinny Pazienza fought Roger Mayweather, and he got involved in a fight after the bell, and he got a cut on his eye, he got hit, and then of course during the Meldrick Taylor and Julio Cesar Chavez fight, he got up on the ring apron and who knows, changed history by distracting Meldrick Taylor while Richard Steele's counting in the corner. But just an amazing family, and it was really interesting to see Kathy Duva in her interview just give her perspective on the boxing world today and how much it's changed, and she thinks a lot of it's for the better, but also a hell of a lot is for the worse. And she probably talks more about the TV and broadcasting and all that sort of stuff where, and again, if you're like me, back in the day, fights used to be, they didn't have pay-per-views. Especially here in Australia, we didn't have like pay TV until was it about 20, 25 years ago? So, but I just remember, looking at the American scene back then, they would have fights on pretty much every weekend, Saturday afternoons, if you will. On Saturday afternoon, you could sit down and watch a world title fight. But they had all the, the Friday night fights, and just, I think what she was saying was, when NBC, CBS, ABC, they all ran the show back in the day, all the network TV channels ran boxing. There were fight nights pretty much on every weekend, and they were free. Then of course pay-per-views, closed circuit, which had been around before then, but they were very, very rare that they would have those events. Only the absolute mega super fights would that happen with. So, and then she said of course HBO came in, which she said was great. Then Showtime came in, because anything HBO did, that Showtime had to match it. And she said the writing on the wall for her was when HBO pulled out in 2018, and then Showtime was always going to follow suit after that. And now we're stuck with what I think are very mediocre broadcasting events. They charge through the nose, but I don't think deliver. And look, I know it might be again getting old and a little bit stuck in my ways, but the DAZNs and even Main Event here and all the channels, the Amazon Primes and all that, PBC, they hold absolutely nothing on the broadcast events of yesteryear, especially with HBO. And this is with probably the advent of less technology that they have these days, and resources and money and everything else, that HBO just did it like no one's ever done it, and I doubt they ever will. Showtime did their best, but I just think these days it's pretty mediocre as far as I think what we're getting on these broadcasts for what it's costing us. But anyway, that's just a little bit of a whinge. But speaking of main events, I mentioned the Meldrick Taylor Chavez fight. One thing that struck me today in another article I saw was that it is Meldrick Taylor's birthday today. So happy birthday to Meldrick Taylor. And it spoke about, I suppose, the sliding door moment of the Julio Cesar Chavez fight. It sort of brought back a lot of memories. And 1990 the fight took place, so obviously 34 years ago, a long time ago, but it just struck me, they sort of discussed where he was at the fight and what happened to him after, and they referred to it as 2 seconds from greatness, and he really was. He dominated that fight and was stopped with 2 seconds to go. And you remember the controversy, as I said, Lou Duva jumping up in the ring, and you see Meldrick Taylor turning his head to look at him and misses Richard Steele asking him if he's okay. You see and so Richard Steele thought he wasn't responding, so stopped the fight. You see the red light flashing behind Meldrick Taylor in that corner, indicating there was less than 10 seconds to go in the round. So Richard Steele would have known that, geez, if I let him go, by the time Chavez gets to him, the bell might go. There's lots of things that happened in that fight, but I suppose the end of the day with the whole event itself was that Meldrick Taylor just was never the same. Now, he did get an opportunity to fight Chavez again, but I think the horse had well and truly bolted by then, and he just fell away after that. He suffered some pretty nasty beatings, and you look at him these days, he's not in a great physical condition either, and it's just tragic to think that these sports stars, and especially boxers for us fans, that what these guys go through during their careers, and especially after their careers. And it's just really, really sad that these days he's not in a great way. But isn't it funny how life can go two ways? And again, those sliding door moments where if he had beaten Chavez, he would have been the #1 pound for pound fighter in the world. maybe it was Meldrick that would have got the fights with the likes of Mayweather and Oscar De La Hoya and Tszyu and who knows, but it just never happened for Meldrick after that, and he just fell away, and as I said, hasn't ended up too well for Meldrick as he's gotten older. So I hope he's doing well anyway, but happy birthday, champ. We do love you and hope you're doing well. So guys, that is about it for today. Not a hell of a lot went on over the last 24 hours, apart from building up I should say, for today's events. But I'm sure we'll have the review tomorrow, and plenty of other things will pop up. It's always the way. Still plenty of good fights to happen in 2024, and already they're talking about some big fights in 2025. So still plenty to talk about, guys. And if there's nothing to talk about, well, I'll think of something to talk about. And if you've got some stuff you would like me to discuss on here, let me know. There's no rhyme or rhythm to it. It's just whatever's on our mind at the time. So let us know. All right, guys, well, I'm going to leave it at that. Have a great day. Enjoy the fights, and we'll catch you tomorrow.